a subject matter expert in the role of a build release administrator, TFS administrator, and assisting project managers and web developers with creating, updating, and maintaining websites for large client projects. He spent his IT career at various corporations, including MasterCard, Merits Motivation Solutions, and US Bank. In 2019, he changed careers and began working with his wife, managing vacation rentals and providing other services related to the industry. So today he's going to be talking about smart home tech for security, sustainability, sanity, and entertainment. Please join me in welcoming Nat Hammond.
Are you guys awake? Yeah. Everybody's awake?
Yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started. Smart home technology for lodging properties. I also like to call these different strokes for different folks. Of course, the reason we do that is because, there's different solutions, smart home solutions for every scenario. So we're going to kind of touch on that. I'm going to try to run through this as quickly as possible so we get to questions, because I know we don't have a lot of time. So we will start with the blue door. Okay, so there's this blue door, right? So Tanya and I were traveling in London a few years back. This is pre-COVID. So we arrived at the property. It was really late. It was at night, and it's kind of dark. We're familiar with the area. We had very limited or short instructions on how to access the property. So these instructions included like finding a lockbox, just one of those little lock boxes that you just kind of type the numbers and stuff. Having a 4-digit code and putting it into this manual lockbox, and then we have to retrieve the key. Okay, we used on the door, the whole thing. So we arrived. We're tired of traveling all day, and we're just fumbling around looking for this lockbox. Okay, and so being the superhero that I am, I decided to call the support number and try to get in touch with the owner, the manager of the property. And so I talked to the customer service agent that answered, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the lockbox that holds the keys actually in behind the blue door." Not the big one that you see there. It's actually the middle one. So the little door is basically like where the trash bin gets put. Okay, so so we open up the door and we're just kind of fumbling around inside, looking for this spot, kind of reaching our head around the corner, and eventually we find the lockbox, get the key, we get in the house, we're able to relax and call it a night. But one of the things, well, actually several things that probably would have made this easier, but one major thing that would have made this easy was instead of having a key you have to fumble around for, is just having a 4-digit code and typing it into a lock right on the door. Something simple. So, anyway, without further ado, let's kind of go into this a little bit more. So, we're going to go over a couple things here. We've got basic smart home technology. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
If I start to talk too fast, let me know, because sometimes I kind of race through. So basic smart home technology for lodging. We've got some, and this stuff that includes like hubs, which I'll touch on in a little bit, locks, really important, thermostats, doorbell cameras, security cameras, smart home TVs, we were just talking about that up here. There's also smart home assistants, like the Eco Dot, got Apple, Google, and then let's see, we've also got some other helpful smart home appliances like smart lights, smart TVs, Roombas, gaming systems was mentioned this morning or this afternoon as much. You've got, and of course, under smart home appliances, you've got smart home appliances. You got things like refrigerators, stoves, washers, and dryers. I mean, come on, we go full out with this stuff. And believe it or not, toilets. Yeah, toilets, faucets, hey, let stuff flow back, less water, you know? And of course, we're gonna also, towards the end, we're gonna touch on some really unique, smart home technology that's more closely related to what we do in the lodging profession, some really cool things. So let's touch on the smart home hub. Is anybody familiar with smart home hubs at all? Okay, good, so you're familiar with that. So a smart home hub, at one time was just a piece of hardware, now it's hardware or software. And it's basically a way for all your devices to talk or to communicate with all your devices, your launch, your thermostats, washers and dryers, your toilet if you have to. Just to kind of give you a little bit better idea. This is kind of a diagram, so, you know, this type of scenario, a hub would work great. Personally, we try to move away from hardware. This is before they started coming out with some software solutions. But it's one of those things when you remove that piece of hardware out of there, that's one less thing you have to worry about breaking or have to troubleshoot. When you have a guest, it's not something you want to do. So the next thing is, I thought I'd just show this. So the toilet we mentioned earlier, and I got this from my wife who went on vacation a month ago without me, went to a tropical location. Very jealous, by the way. But yeah, a toilet. She said she would walk into the bathroom, it would light up, it'd start to swirl, it'd warm up the seat. I mean, come on. And it's nice though, I mean, it's kind of going overboard. Even had a date in there too. So these are things that kind of touched on, so, you know, toilets, faucets, appliances, TVs, lights, again, lights, especially in a lodging property, really comes in handy. Kind of adds mood and ambiance for a nice warm welcome. But the thing I'm really passionate about is locks. Okay. One honorable mention that I didn't throw up here was Yale locks. The only reason I didn't put it up here is because these are the most common ones that I've come in contact with. So locks. You have a preference? You know, I've actually played with Quickset a couple times. We don't have those at our properties, but I know some property managers do. But we actually use the Schlage encode. Schlage encode, yeah. And I'm now aware that they're coming up with the Schlage encode plus. So that's kind of a nice thing to know about. Okay, so cool. Yeah, so here's the thing about these locks. So a couple of years ago when I started doing this, we noticed that a lot of these locks we need to have a bridge or a hub as that extra device. And I think once or twice it might have gone down. So when Schlage and Quickset and some of these other manufacturers started coming out with products where you download their app and you control the device directly through the app, it was like, oh, I'm ahead, let's do it. We don't have to worry about something breaking. So these two, and there are others like this, Halo, the Quickset Halo and Schlage, these are great devices. You can get an app on your phone for these devices. It's scalable, which means you can add multiple rooms or properties. You have a bunch of cabins. You can add as many as you want. You name on something different. You can look at the code. It has history, so you can tell who's been in and out. Like for instance, let's say you have a burner on your phone. Your guest arrives. Immediately you can text your guest or call and say, hey, I see you arrived. Just want to make sure you guys are okay. Everything's okay with the house. You can cut off the problems right there once you know that they've entered the property. So these are some great solutions. And again, it's scalable. There's a few that are not scalable where you're limited to like one or two, maybe three doors, that's it. They connect through Wi-Fi. You can use these on home kits, so like a hub, if you want to do like the software type. However, you can have these directly linked to the app that you have on your phone to control them. Works great. The other one I also want to mention is the interlock. The interlock is another one that is great for places where you don't have internet or won't access to any type of, or let's say limited internet or no internet. It works off of an algorithm system, and you have so many codes, you give it to your guests, and they can, when they arrive at the property, they're actually able to program their own code in there once they've gotten into the property, if they want to do that. So if you have a mountain property, it has no access to anything, no phones, nothing, that's perfect. So,
Question on that.
yeah.
So a lot of us think users, does anybody use the Think that they have integrated into the solution with lots of Think? What's been the experience?
Well, I don't have the link yet. I understand, I think it's supposed to be working on one with Slang.
Oh, okay.
I've
I only have one now that's there.
and it's terribly expensive, which, and I understand it with the Slash, and that's why I went ahead and went with the Slash box. I'm ready. I'm supposed to be one of the first folks to get it.
So I have, Residexis, and I've been using the integrated locks for 2.5, 3 years. I've slowly added them, so I have 10, and I'm adding 10 more soon, and they're really great. We're at the seaside, so we're right at the beach, and
So it's a scalable,
scalable, so I'll have 20 here next month.
Oh, nice.
It works great.
yeah.
They have 4 or 5 of us.
Yeah.
And
And I used one of their most robust ones because of where I'm at next to Ocean.
Right.
But it's amazing. I was concerned about the weather, because of Alaska,
Yeah.
but I haven't had any problems.
Oh, that's good, that's good. So you guys are looking for really reliable products. I don't know if you guys were, I like to think of myself as a professional consumer. I'm sure you guys are too. One good thing to do is maybe check out the consumer reports for some of these products. That'll tell you the reliability. And actually, I mentioned that just a few moments about one of these thermostats up here. Moving on to thermostats. So with our thermostats, so we got several of them. We got the Nest, we got Sanity, we got Ecobee. All of these work and integrate quite well with smart home assistants and smart home hubs. And as a matter of fact, Ecobee has Alexa built into it. The other thing about these apps, or these thermostats, is you can download an app. You don't have to have it connected through a smart home assistant. If you want to keep things very simple, and they still give you information on the app that you download on your phone. So a couple things I'm going to kind of touch on is so they all integrate well, right? The one that we use is Sanity. That's one of our preferred ones, but we also have a few properties with Ecobee. Ecobee is another one that works great. The Nest is great because of its cool factor. You know, you can turn it on. It kind of has that retro style where you can turn it on. However, and I say this with a grain of salt, as carefully as possible. After doing some research, and Consumer Reports even rates this as one of their highest rated thermostats. After talking to groups, people swear by these things. However, in the same conversation, they will tell you that they have a short lifespan, like 2 to 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, and they will build it into the cost of operation to buy another one when they go out.
the only problem I've had is in essence that you might have 3 thermostats in the house, and they tend to drop offline.
Yeah. Right. Another problem we found is, I actually found this out with my in-laws because they had these material properties. Apparently, it'll turn on the air conditioner in the winter when your guests are there, which kind of sucks. So,
That
yeah.
was, I found that to be a problem in the schedule. There was actually a firmware update.
Right.
Fix that.
Right. And then there's also, and I don't want to get too technical, but apparently there's a problem with pumps and a seaware compatibility. So, yeah, that's just something to know. But when people do have those, they understand those problems and they swear by them. You know, and they like them. They're great. So that's all for those. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. So there was this. So we have, we've had situations, and I'm going to tell you about one situation where we had in Hermiston last year, where we had somebody try to turn down thermostats at 50 degrees, and it was 100-degree weather. So what do you think happened to that HVAC system? It froze. It froze. And so we had to go over there to talk to the people and explain to them, well, the reason that this floor is hot is because you froze it out. Fortunately, the guests understood, and they didn't like the fact that it was cold in it or hot there, but it happens. But the good thing is, with these thermostats, we were able to be notified right away that there was a problem, that they were trying to turn it down, and we were on it. So, yes.
I actually had to put my thermostats behind lock enclosures because they're individually controlled for the room, but they have the same outdoor unit. So if somebody tried to switch from cold to hot, it messed them up really
Okay.
bad. So now I have the smart home thermostats that are connected to my Wi-Fi.
Oh, nice.
And they're Honeywell. So, and
I know it's very great, yeah.
they're behind a locked box, so they can't screw up the
Right.
entire system. So the problem is just trying to communicate between the guests as to how comfortable they want it, and then I change it immediately on my phone.
Yeah, we do give our guests, and they have access to them, but occasionally, we got locks on them. Occasionally, you have that one guest who's a little too savvy. Yeah, or maybe too smart for their own good. So, but we've had that.
Well, Nest has a code.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes.
We have an old house, and our problem was equalizing the heating and cooling across, and it always drove me nuts, but I didn't know, so we had our HVAC service company put sensors, and we have a Honeywell also, so I can, at mine floor level on our side, I can just hit the button and see the temperatures, first, second, third, fourth.
Okay.
And that I know it can equalize with the fan on, turn the fan off, so that really helps me understand what's happening around the house.
Just a quick note, we have one of our houses that in Ransom, it has a nest, so we walked into it, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. It was 44 degrees in there. Yeah, it was so cold I couldn't think. I mean, it was freezing. We had to go outside in 50-degree weather to warm up. But we got into it, we turned off the settings to make it less eco-friendly and more adaptable to people who want to be comfortable. Anyway, so the next thing we're going to move on to is smart home assistants. We were just talking about this. Okay. Yeah, so smart home assistants, they basically automate your lighting, which we mentioned earlier, your HVAC settings, you can link your smart home appliances, you can play music, find out what the weather is, you can order pizza. There's a lot of different things you can do to it. The downside is privacy issues, which is something else we just talked about up here just previously. So what happens is these devices are they're listening for your wake word, like Hey Alexa or Hey Siri. And when they hear that, they come alive and they actually record a fraction of whatever they're saying. And this is so they can load it up on the cloud servers and use it for on their AI to improve, the performance. That can be a little creepy, especially if you ask for a transcription of the stuff that you say, because, that stuff does get recorded, and you have that.
Do they have the ability to change the way it works?
The what?
Do they have the ability to change the way it works? I have found.
Yes, yes, I was looking at that, if you can get fancy with it, you can change the way for it, yeah. What else here? So we got
Anything
Go.
before you say the wake up word? Do they record anything before you say the wake up word?
No, it doesn't, Right. Now, I read an
That's the
instance
football player
recently.
that got busted for murder.
I'm sorry, what?
That's the football player that got busted for murder. They record before and after.
That's right.
They're
Yeah.
listening all the time. Have a
That was-
conversation about a national park, and then search in your phone, type the first letter of the national park, it'll come up in your search. They're listening.
There was another situation, I think it was last year, year before, where a customer, I think he was in Germany and had requested transcripts of their information, or maybe it's vice versa, but he's over in the United States, and he received somebody else's transcripts. Yeah, that's kind of, not great. But at the same time, though, actually, I'm going to say about this. So we've got, and here's the thing, these things are great and can add a really unique stay in any type of situation. So I'm not saying don't get them. I mean, they're fantastic. I played with them; they're loads of fun, and your guests might really appreciate it. Because it's hands off. They have access to information just by asking about it. However, I'm going to tell you a story here. So we have a friend of ours from Branson. He does the same thing we do. He's fairly new to this, and he, for the sake of this story, I'm going to call him Joe. Okay, so Joe in Branson, he's got this house, 10 bedrooms. Okay, this house was supposed to be the ultimate in smart home technology. Everything wired for Cat 5. That's basically hardlining all the devices. So it was supposed to be the ultimate. So he's got, locks, thermostats, and he's got Alexa in every single room. Okay, so he's got all the devices we're talking about. So he took us for a tour. I'm walking in each, like 3 different bedrooms. I had the Squeeze, Ed Sheeran, and AC/DC playing in several different rooms all at the same time. And so it was really kind of a cool thing. However, on the day of arrival of his first guest, he had a problem. So the internet went down, which wouldn't be a big deal except for Alexa needs the internet. So he lives in Kansas City. These homes are in Branson. He has to drive 2-3 hours. He goes there and he has to log in after they got the internet fixed. He had to log into 68 devices, which took him, I think it was 2 to 3 hours before the guests got there at 4 p.m. So, yeah, that's.
I have that in my rooms too, and then when I lose the internet, that doesn't happen. It just goes back, I don't have to log back in. And it's cool, we have there's a little card next to it, we've always done playlists, Beach Street in, chilled out, Beach Street in, meditation, Beach Street in, morning wake up. And it's really fun, it's one of our highest rated things that we do.
And this was in this particular area, the ISP's not great, the internet service provider. So, but he did have to log those in. So the next thing we want to talk about here is smart TV. Anybody have any questions so far about the smart home systems? They can play music. Well, it's kind of funny. So, and the demographics are all over the place. When I was researching this, I was talking to a lot of people, and there's some younger folks that have properties, and they're like, you know what? The less I have to worry about, the better. I only want to lock and thermostat, and that's it. Because I want to have to fix this when like I said, is it a big problem? No. Can it be? Yes. It can cause a 5-star stay to turn into a 1. Who wants that, right? But at the same time, though, it could give you a lot of 5-star ratings because everybody loves it. It's just all based on your demographics and where you're at.
And some of it too is if you put a little card next to it, and it just ask Alexa, and so ask Alexa what time high tide is. Ask Alexa. So it's all these little hints of what they can ask her. Now I hate her and I swear at her a lot. So, because she disturbs me. But we gave them little tips of things that, we pre-planned, and it's cool. It gives them lots of local information, I really like it. But, I have to kind of get my act together on it. But it really is not a problem.
And again, different strokes for different folks, right?
One of the other things I've set up with Google Mesh Network and used with Google systems that are connected through
Yeah.
Connect through I guess it's the Mesh Network device that has the system on it.
Right. Yeah. Well, actually, we're going to touch on mesh networks in just a little bit too. So, but that's good to bring up. I'll segue into that. But I see we're talking about smart TVs. So here's a couple things. I try to get, everybody has a different experience, and it depends upon your demographic, what your target guest is. So I kind of want to give you like an idea of some of the different operating systems, and it comes down to what you want your guests to have an experience with. So this one here is Samsung. This is LG.
LG,
Oh, yeah, this one?
yeah,
Yeah,
LG content.
This one here is Samsung. Yeah. This is Roku. And of course, it's Apple. Okay, so a couple of things. Of course, we got just your basic satellite or cable TV. They quite often will look like
What
this.
was one right
That's Apple. Now, the reason I bring these up is, so we have 2 brands in houses, and I'll give you an example. Our 10-bedroom house in Branson, we tried this where we had 5 TVs with cable TV and 7 that had streaming. They all did streaming, but only 5 of them had cable. But because of the demographics, we had to make a change. The people want to be able to walk into these houses, these rooms, like grandma wants to be able to watch Hallmark and grandpa wants to watch ESPN. He doesn't want to have to follow around on Blue Line or anything like that. So I even had a 30-year-old lady with her kids and couldn't figure out how to use Netflix. So it's all over the place. But it's nice to have something experience that they're comfortable with. On our other brand, it's a little different. People know that they're getting streaming. They know they can log into Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, whatever the case may be. And they can get the experience that they're comfortable with. On the other houses, we ended up adding those other 7 televisions. We put them up, or we set them up on cable, and it took care of a lot of problems. The other thing I want to mention is depending upon the types of TVs you have, and some of them, I want to say 43-inch and above, if you're doing a place where maybe you host a lot of, say, corporate retreats or things like that, some of these TVs have the ability to act just like an Apple TV, Samsung and LG do. So like you can do presentations just by casting it on there with your MacBook if you have a MacBook. I think there's actually some apps for Windows, for Dell laptops as well. But it gives you the ability to just cast it on there. Everything is on your screen and flow in. So that's kind of a nice feature to have. And again, that's 43-inch and above. They could change it to the smaller ones, but it's really good for presentations. Yes?
We have just the Chromecast.
Yeah.
$30 on TV.
We did that, yeah.
And we have broadcast television where you get all the.
We did all presentations and
Right.
So, we have had no good time.
so the people who watch all the streaming services and Netflix, whatever, they usually are around.
Yeah.
Cast, and the people who don't have that aren't interested in watching, they're not
They're not
interested.
there, yeah. Right, right.
So we don't have cable.
Yeah, which is always, it's always a plus.
They don't think that they will watch TV, it's just what.
Yeah, I second that. I would kill for, is there an app that will clear, like on LCD, that will clear all the streaming services of usernames?
There is one out there, or actually probably a few of them out there. I didn't have it for this time, but I have researched a few of those applications. I just can't think of the top of my head, but there are some.
I would kill for one.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, right? So you have 2 solutions with that. And one of them is you let the guests log in and then charge them a fee if they don't log out. Or what I've seen some places do is they actually have a house account. And they just, they just go, oh, I can watch.
Yeah, but I've had people unload my house account, put their account in.
Right.
One of them was a rather risque name, which I
Yeah.
didn't catch.
Yeah, and of course, if you have a family and somebody's been watching something that's questionable, it's always great. So it's best to have your own, if you don't have that long-term account. Yes?
I have a question. So where we're at, our cable TV service is going away. They're going to a streaming service that is not going to be
something like that. And there's several actually, I mean, even Sling does it. So Sling, there's one called Friendly, and there's a bunch of different apps out there that give you that same cable TV guide experience without actually having cable. I think the closest I've ever seen personally that looks like a cable TV guide is Hulu Live.
So that is one I may have, I may be able to use, I just
Yeah.
purchased that last couple of days. And it sounds like you can have unlimited, you could have an account, I think it's $85 or $95, and you can
Yeah.
add unlimited devices. So, that may be an option for live TV,
Right.
but I've not experienced Hulu Live myself.
Yeah, I played around with it a couple years ago. It was slow. It didn't respond very well, but I also had the ISP that we have, the internet service provider. But
What is it?
I'm sorry.
What are you talking?
We're talking about Hulu Live. There's several other companies, you know, you got Sling, I think even Sony's got PlayStation has, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they've all got some type of a live streaming app, but the problem comes into the experience you have might still just look like an app and not like cable TV, which people are so used to. So, anyway, let's move on real quick and we'll get back to more questions. So I wanted to touch on this. So we have braiding doorbells and exterior cameras. Oh, I forgot to mention something. With those smart home assistants that we talked about a few months ago, you do have to put that on your listing. You have to disclose that. Same with these, with Ring doorbells and exterior cameras. Now, the thing about the importance of these that helps you with your property is you monitor people coming in and out. Like for instance, if you have guests that are bringing pets or dogs and you have no pet policy, you can see that. If you have a larger property and it's supposed to be a family and it turns out to be like some college kids and they're having a big, bash, you can immediately see what's going on and say, okay, we're kicking those guys out because you saw them on the camera. One thing on the flip side of that is, and my wife, this is the reason my wife has never gotten these, is if you have one of these things, you're keeping an eye on your property, but it's going to drive you insane. Because you'll be obsessing over who's coming in and out of your house like every 5 minutes. So it's something to be cautious about. I think it's a good product. Some people are kind of,
But I'm sorry, you said something before that, you said you had to disclose.
Oh, yeah, okay, so along with exterior security cameras and smart home assistants, those things have to be disclosed on your listing.
So-
You're referring to rental property businesses and like air and breakfast is not.
I'm assuming all.
If any OTA you have to disclose.
Yeah.
If, you know,
So wait a minute, it's OTAs or is
So it's an invasion of privacy, so even like, some of the insurance companies will ask you, what devices do you have? And if it's something inside the home or even the backyard now, they're saying no. So if it's recording type of thing, any OTAs, you have to mark devices. I think there's other devices we talked about too that do track things but don't record. And the guests you don't want to have and try to get a free stay, they'll use this against you as well. So even on your own website, you should always disclose what type of camera, what type of devices are around as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a friend who had a very successful Airbnb listing, and she had outdoor cameras and did not disclose it, and they were complaining, and they shut her down, and she didn't have access to her future bookings. Like, it was a real disaster.
Yeah, so it's always good to be forthcoming with that information. So, just a quick side note, one of the things that this does come in handy with, so we have we're in Branson. These are all basically communities of, large vacation homes. And we've been having an issue, or we've had an issue in the past where the next door neighbor's guests, well, their guests will park and either block in or park in our guests' spots. Because it's like, it's clearly designated, like there's a parking pad, it's for this house. And because of these cameras, they'll pick up on this stuff and you can immediately start messaging some of your neighboring hosts, and they can get on the ball, have those people in their cars when they see this on the exterior cameras or the doorbells. So, it's kind of nice to have. Unless, of course, you're assessing about it. All right, let's see. So next, does anybody have any questions about this so far?
I just want to talk to her about it, so.
What?
I want to talk to her about it, so.
Oh, yeah, she's a visit then. Yes.
We use Arlo, I know Ring and Nest are bringing together the biggest one. We had to have one that was wireless and battery powered, and it's great. Arlo is super good video quality. And good battery life, sorry, but.
Ours was terrible battery life because it's triggered by how many times it goes off, and there were people just like.
We had that problem
Yeah.
too, I just adjusted the angles, I still got my front door, but I got rid of the street traffic.
Yeah, no, we just have people that are bad. So we actually had to go through and we got like the little solar panels for our loads, and then we wired them. Some of them are totally, like, we put them up because they're gonna be wireless and clean, and now we got like weird.
Hey, you gotta do what
I
you
wanted
gotta do.
everything like hardwired in, and like, no, this will be good. And I'm like, okay, well, now that one's dead, and that one's dead, and that, they all need to be
That's
charged.
crazy, we went from recharging every day to like once every 3 weeks, once a week.
Yeah, it's not street traffic, it's actually, our people are bad. Yeah.
So, what next we move on to? Let's see, how are we on time? How are we on time? Okay. All right, so next thing I'm going to run into, we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. So additional tech for a great guest experience is we've got mesh networks, which the gentleman over here talked about. We've got Wi-Fi with easy access, noise monitoring devices. Those are wonderful. And then we've got digital learning guides. We'll talk about that too, because believe it or not, that does a lot of the same things that the smart home system can do. Does anybody know what a mesh network is? Other than you? You know what it is? Okay. Does anybody know? Okay, so you know what it is. Okay. So a mesh network, basically it creates how can I explain this? It creates a wider area of coverage in your home. So it creates like basically a net, and within that net, you can access the internet or the Wi-Fi network a lot. You get a consistent experience with that network. So let me just kind of skip through this. So here's the home. So if you have a mesh network, it will provide a consistent experience, whether you're outside or you're in the kitchen or living room, versus just having just one router. So.
And if you go back to the other slide real quick, one of the advantages of it versus a repeater is the nodes talk to each other, rather than going back to a single line.
Right. It makes it a lot more consistent.
Does it make it faster?
When it is, makes it a lot slower when you don't have one. It's like that. So, one of the things about that is we have a large home. It's 10 bedrooms, 10 and a half bath, 3 levels. So in order for the people on the 3rd level to have consistent access and be able to watch Netflix, we've got to have a mesh network. Otherwise, you got somebody that just can't even connect. So yeah. Yes.
The first generation of the Comcast routers, we absolutely needed it, solved the problem overnight. The second generation, the new mesh things didn't integrate with the new upgrade, but the new upgrade router from Comcast was fast enough, I didn't need it.
Yeah.
What I also learned to use, to have all the time on my phone is fast.com, and I just press the button and tell it what the current speed is. So I can really monitor, and we have big enough too, so I can see on, like, it sucks, I'm at 200 megabytes a second, let's look a little closer. So it really helps to kind of detect when you got a problem, you don't have a problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of apps out there for measuring it. Like Comcast, but I think there's like, what is it? Shark,
Yeah, I don't use Comcast speed detector, I use this separate one, fast.com.
Are those all wired boosters or are they wireless boosters?
Wireless.
Because the problem I have, I have an 1834 house, and wireless doesn't shoot well through plaster, right?
It's,
We actually
yeah,
run
it's
three
research.
networks.
huh?
We run 3 different networks so that people can have internet.
Oh, yeah.
They have the Arrow, which is, they plug in their wireless, I have 1840 plaster coming through. We had to have 3 boosters for the entire room, we have 7 bedrooms. So, yeah, you only do that plaster, pain as well.
We've got an old 1900s bank, and it's all brick, the internet is me from. It's really cool, by the way.
There's
But-
just no Wi-Fi involved. It doesn't go 20.
Yeah, well, Wi-Fi, we have 30-inch walls, in the walls, so obviously we don't get in there, but actually works pretty well in other places, but we did have to get an extender for it. Moving on to my next subject is some other smart home technology for lodging. So we have, speaking of the mesh networks, we use a system called, hold on here. It's not in this place. So one of the things we have is we've got a system called StayFi, and I know there's a few other services out there, but StayFi it's one of those mesh network ideas or companies. And it also provides easy access to the internet. So you have a guest that comes in, they can put in their email address rather than like have a username or password that they have to put in. And they can opt out of getting any emails from you for marketing, or they can accept them and go ahead and go through them, and immediately they got access to the network. And a lot of people like it. We've had some people that have stayed on our mailing list for up to 10 years and are rebooking with us. So, the next thing, noise monitoring devices. I mentioned this to somebody earlier today that launched like noise monitoring devices. What are you talking about? So noise monitoring devices. Keep in mind, these things don't listen or record anything you say. It's only measuring sound. So there's two products out there. I'm sure there's others, but the two we're most familiar with is Noise Aware and Minute. So we use both. And Noise Aware is a great product. It's something where you okay, yeah, they're both there. So Noise Aware is you basically plug it into a much wild that we connect to the app. You set your decibels, and then what happens is, anytime it goes over, let's say 80 decibels, you're gonna get an alert. So, it does the exact same thing. However, it also measures or listens for like if your smoke alarms start to go out, or if there's moisture, or if the temperature starts to drop in the room. Usually, then it's gonna notify you of those things. Yes.
Do they only provide notifications, or is there anything that's a visual feedback to the people making the noise?
So, like, what do you mean?
Well, you get the drummer that comes back at 2 in the morning, waking up everyone, and it sure would be nice if, green flashing light or something.
It does do it. Actually, Noise we're not sure of. We have used those, but we have it on a few properties. But yes, it does send off like an indication. It also will detect motion. Like if you have a house that's been sitting vacant for a while, and somebody comes in that you don't know about, it's gonna let you know. So it'll detect that motion sensor. And it will detect somebody in there.
Do they both do the temperature drop?
No, well, I haven't used Noise Aware in a while. So, but at the last time we had it, it did not. It only did strictly noise.
For the minute one?
The minute one does, yeah. And the other thing is, you have to recharge it. So it's got a cord, you go in, you recharge it, but it lasts for a long time. And it mounts to a plate where you stick it, it's kind of like a smoke detector. And kind of to just give you an idea why something like this might come in handy, we've never had to call the guest about noise except for maybe once or twice in the past 3 years. And in one instance, it was kind of embarrassing. So, we're sitting in bed one night and we get an alert that there's excessive noise at the bank. And it was, we weren't really, expecting this from, it was some newlyweds that just got married. And so we had the message, and we're like, yeah, I'm sure you guys have a great time, and we're glad you're having a great time, but so where do you bring the noise down to a more dinner party level acceptable limit? That'd be really great. Immediately, the noise went down. I mean, it was going for like an excessive time. As soon as we messaged them, it went down, and all was good. So it just helped with those things. So let's see, the other thing we want to talk about, digital welcome guides. So we've had two this week at the conference. We got touch date and frictionless. So those are some really good examples of digital welcome guides. And you know how we were talking about smart home assistants when you say, hey, Alexa, what is the temperature out today? Well, you can look this up on your phone. And you have that information available on your phone, your laptop, any type of device. You don't have to ask Alexa, because you can't obviously take Alexa to, let's say Disney World with you. So, one of the things that kind of comes in handy is if you're with your family and you're leaving a theme park somewhere, and they're heading back to the place that they rented, but they wanted something to eat. Well, you can find out, maybe some local eats, and then it'll give you directions. It'll place it on the map. You can get your check-in, check-out instructions on there. Some people put events on there. And some of their inns might have some annual or semi-annual events. They might want to put those events on those apps. So it's kind of a nice resource for all that information. And obviously it can't be play music, but of course your phone can do that, right? So that's it. So anybody want to ask any questions? Yes. Yes. Alexa, name of action.
Turn the shower on to 102 degrees, and then after we've been there for a while, if he's been in too long, I can say, Alexa, turn the shower down to 50 degrees.
So again, like Alexa and Siri, they all have their places, and there's some advantages to having those. So, yes?
Do you have any thoughts on CCTVs without NVRs or DVRs?
CCTV. You're talking about externally, right?
Yes, sir.
Again, that's what cameras, personally, I think it's a good idea to have them on the exterior of the house. Simply because we've had situations, I'm not going to tell you the situation we had, but we've had situations where we've had guests stay, and because of the camera, we're able to pinpoint, okay, what's going on, do we need to show up and get these people out? So it does come in handy.
But what about the newer ones that don't require an NVR or DVR? They're all sort of...
NVR, DVR, you're talking about the ones where you just don't download the app on your phone?
Well, it all records to the cloud as opposed to you having to store it.
Oh, I'd rather have one of those than a DVR. Oh, yeah. I think, because like you said, the information you get that's recorded, it does stay in the cloud, but you don't have to rely on another piece of equipment. Anytime you can eliminate a piece of equipment that might break or might malfunction, that's fantastic. That's why I'm kind of impressed by these, what do you call them? The software-based hubs rather than the hardware-based ones. Yes?
So this is where Arlo's good again, because they'll give you like a free or give you 30-day storage, but then you can sign up to get year storage, like $10 a month. So I can review back for everything that Arlo will capture, the exterior, and the neighbor, like, somebody in my car can see who it was, it was between this and that time. So that's a way to solve it is if your camera provider has a library service.
And again, keep that in mind, it does well as start listening. Yes?
Can you expand on the software hubs? There's much familiar with it.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Can you expand on the software hubs versus hardware hubs?
Well, I mean, this is something I have toyed with as much because it's something I just found out. I mean, we switched, just to give you an idea, we just switched maybe a year or two ago to products, including the Schley code and the Sanity thermostats, simply because they didn't need a hub. And this is 2 years ago. But here's the cool thing though, the products up until that, the original, this was just 2 years ago, they all required a hardware. Whereas now, you know, you got a lot of the products, like, you know, like the Ecobee thermostat has Alexa built into it. So anything that when you use software to replace that hardware, then it's, you know, it's something you can, you know.
Well, Slange did the same type of thing, where when you configure it, it's Bluetooth, you
Yeah.
get it onto, I'm sorry, I see what you're on there.
Yes.
I have a Schlage lock right now, and it works great, except when the batteries run out, obviously.
Tell me about it.
And it's hard to see at night.
You're the black one,
Press
don't you?
that first button.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's fine, so I always have to pick a code that's a 0 or a 1, so people know where it is, on the keypad, then it lights up. It's really difficult.
So here's a solution, this is something, yeah, so here's something we've toyed with is, maybe getting like motion lights or this is something we talked about earlier, so there's, you know, those lights that connect to your network that can come on when somebody, you know, arrives, puts in a button. Like, was it the guy, Joe Schmo, for lack of a better work name. So he's got it set up in his Alexa smart home that when people arrive, the lights will come on and they'll welcome them. So, but something like that, especially with those black Schleys, I know what you're talking about because we have the same issue. It's like,
Yeah. I tell them I have a visualizer test for alcohol. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I saw you could get in after 3 times.
Well, we leave our first file on. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah,
It's just
give
not
me
enough.
enough, give me enough
With
light.
that black keypad,
Anybody have, and again, I have to say, with some of the information I got, I mean, when doing this research, I got a lot of helpful information like always from consumer reports. You know, when you're searching for your products, and then also look at your demographics, you know. See who your target guest is. You know, like in Branson, we have a lot of people that it's grandma and grandpa, and it's like 3 generations. You know, and whereas in my country, it's different. You know, people are a little more savvy. They don't need cable. Of course, they might not be there just to watch TV, right?